Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating nature-inspired watercolours in my studio, which are easy for you to do too. I share all my paintings with you on YouTube, and on our website dianeantone.com you can find free downloadable sketches for all the videos to help you make the most of your painting journey. And if you'd like a little bit more, we also have channel memberships with loads of perks for you to enjoy. So welcome on board, click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolour. Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. Diane here. Hope everybody's well and hopefully happy and healthy too. Today I thought I would paint some dragonflies, so don't go away. But before we start on our loose dragonflies, which I think you're going to enjoy, I thought I'd just give you a little glimpse of my studio and the process of coming up with today's video. I don't know whether everyone's interested in this, and if you're not, then just scoot forward to where I start the painting. But otherwise, give me a couple of minutes and I will just show you around my working surface here. So at one end of my workspace, I have my paints and the brushes and implements like pencils and bits and pieces that I use, a hairdryer when I need to emergency dry my hair, or a painting, more likely. My computer telling me that I've got lots more subscribers now. And then going along here, all the odds and ends until we finally get to the bit where I do the real painting. Dirty water because I haven't got round to changing it yet. No coffee because I haven't got round to making it yet. And this is my literal working surface. Now I've got my set of Gallo paints here, and I have done some surgery on this because the flippy flappy bits, parts of the tin that came with it were getting in the way of recording the videos. So it turns out my clever daughter pointed out to me that they're only held in place with a kind of metal rod which goes along here. So we took that out, removed them and put them to one side. I can put them back on if I want to. I've got my swatch of all the Gallo colours there to remind me what they are, because they all look pretty, well, anonymous anyway, but they are great colours and I'm quite enjoying using them. However, what I've done this morning is I've taken some of the colour. So for example, in this painting, we're going to be using Harbour Blue. I'm just lifting it up here and then putting it into the into my little round palette here. So I've got a nice reservoir of paint there, and I did the same with the other colour that we're going to use, which is Notturno, and I'm putting that next to it there. Just make a nice puddle of that. It's a bit fiddly, but that's the way we have to do it. And then the other colour I'm going to be using today is Potter's Pink, and I've got that in this little dish here, and that's a tube paint. Potter's Pink. This is a Schminke one, so I've just squeezed a bit of that out there. So those are the three main colours, or the three colours that we are going to be using today. So then it's a matter of what am I going to paint? And I was looking, we did cats, didn't we, the other day? So my next idea was maybe we should do some flowers, because I'm working on the idea of wet in wet and granulating, and really simple with just a few strokes. So I was thinking about that, so I did a few trials, and then I thought, oh, I know, I won't do that. I'm going to do a page full of dragonflies. So this is the desk here where I've got everything laid out. I was thinking about choosing the colours that's going to be for the palette for today, and so we've ended up with this. So let's get started on our dragonflies. Okay, so let's get started with this thing today. First thing I want to talk about actually with materials is the paper that I'm going to use. I've done 3 versions of this painting today, 2 of which I can make. 3 versions of this painting. and I've done them on different paper. This one's on Canson Etival, Montval, and this one is on Arches, and this one is on Bockingford. And to tell you the truth, I don't think they've all been worked up certain different amounts, so there's a little bit of difference in the amount of paint that's actually on the paper. This one, for example, is much more heavily painted because I've been experimenting with other things. But to be honest, for this particular exercise, you don't need to worry too much about the quality of your paper. It doesn't need to be Arches, although Arches is lovely, if you don't mind using it for this. This is a sheet of Arches, and it feels very nice. It has a sort of quality to it because it's made from cotton. Probably more cotton in there than in the average t-shirt these days, which is supposedly made of cotton, because this feels much more healthy than some of the clothing that we're expected to wear nowadays. Do you know what? The other day we vacuumed my bedroom and found it was covered in pink dust. And it turned out that this pink dust was coming off of a jumper that I've got. And I thought to myself, I must be inhaling that. It's shedding so much dust. It's unbelievable. It's just a jumper. I mean, what on earth is this? It's synthetic. This is Etival paper. I'll put a link in the description below. And if you go to Amazon, to our storefront, I'll put a link to that as well. You can see all of my preferred materials and equipment and everything there, all nicely organized into for beginners and for more advanced, equipping your studio and so on and so forth. So that's all under what's the word? Under development, in development. But it's there, it's available, and you can use it. And I wish you would. It would be lovely if you did. And then this is Bockingford, and this has a sort of, it feels a little bit, it isn't, but it feels as if it's a little bit greasy. It has a sort of slightly slimy feel to it, but it paints up fine. And this is this design on Bockingford. So anyway, today I think, what should I do? I'll use the Bockingford since it's in my hand. Let's use the Bockingford. Now, this is the 3 colours that I've chosen. And you can see the granulation in there. You see all these dots? Now, there are some people, some purists, watercolour painters who are purists. They're probably mostly dead now. But they used to moan about granulation. It was a problem. And these colours hadn't been invented in those days, but ultramarine blue had. And ultramarine blue is a pigment that has a lot of large particles in it, and that's what causes granulation. A couple of people actually asked me to talk a little bit about granulation, and so I will talk a little bit about granulation. Granulation is the irregularities that you get in the surface when the heavy particles fall into the texture of the paper. So if it's a highly textured paper, like a rough rather than a knot, you'll get a lot more texture appearing when you use a paint which has largish particles in. Ultramarine does, and therefore it's always been inclined to granulate. And I used to really like to mix ultramarine blue with one of the earth colours like raw sienna, and that makes a beautiful grey, and it's lovely for English skies. So granulated beautifully and made lovely clouds. Still does actually, but I just don't do that kind of painting very much at the moment. Synthetic colours like the quinacridones and the phthalos are made from very, very fine particles which don't granulate at all. They will give you a smooth coloration of your paper no matter how rough it is, and so they are the other end of the spectrum. So your earth colours and things like, as I said, raw sienna and burnt sienna and all those, they will all help with the granulation. And these ones are too. So this is Potter's Pink, which is a famous granulator. This one that one happens to be by Schminke. This colour is from Gallo, and it is called something strange like Harbour Blue. And this one is called Notturno, which I think means nighttime. It's misty colour, isn't it? Another brand that has a lot of beautiful granulating colours. Daniel Smith have a lot, and also Schminke. They've both got ranges of granulating colours, and that's worth exploring. I've put some links to that on the Amazon storefront, shopfront, or whatever they call it. So these are a few tests as I gradually dilute it and get down to a very pale colour. So here in my palette, I've got the full strength, more or less, of the Harbour Blue, full strength of Notturno, full strength of Potter's Pink, and then these ones are the diluted versions, just to make it a bit quicker when it comes to painting these here dragonflies. And my idea that I was playing around with today was to not have a drawing, but just to start with a nice big brush. This is a size 14 round. You could use a bigger one if you use a bigger piece of paper. You could go up a size or two. You could even go as far as a big mop brush for this if you wanted to do it really big, which would be kind of fun. Excuse me while I finish off my coffee, which is getting cold. Okay, so I'm not going to do a drawing before I start. I'm just going to do it at random. But I will trace this after I've finished so that you can download the sketch for free if you want online. I need that as well because I need this as well because I might need some full strength paint. So, okay, right, pluck up my courage and pick up some paint, I think is the way to go. Oh yes, I should have a piece to practice on here. You should always have a practice piece so you can test the strength of your paint before you put it on your paper, so you know what you're doing. So that's pretty much straight out of there. So all I'm going to do is just literally lay down a couple of strokes for each wing. Like that, and I'm not going to play with them at all. And then I'm going to pick up some of this Notturno and drop that in there. And this is all about practicing wet in wet, isn't it? That's what we're doing at the moment. We're practicing wet in wet painting and not worrying too much about any of the drawing side of things. So you can see what I'm doing. I've deconstructed the dragonfly, and we're just bringing these segments down, and we're going to let that move in situ. And then we'll put another one over here. This one is going to be a little bit darker, lighter. And we'll put Notturno in this one as well. That's the same colour. Deconstruct the body, just make the segments sit like that. You can give it a curve if you want. And then I'm going to go to Potter's Pink and trying to remember to vary the angle of the wings. Just make them plenty big enough. And what's going to go best with that pink? I think Notturno as well. So we'll just put the little eyes in and the body, and then deconstruct the segments like that. And then these won't stay like this. This is going to be, I'm probably going to put some ink and probably, I forgot to mention these. The Kuretake Starry Colours, I'm probably going to put some of the silver on when these are dry. What was that? That was this one, wasn't it? Okay, so clearly for the purposes of this design, we're going to need, you see, that's a bit dodgy because it's a bit the same, but never mind. we'll make him go the other way. So we'll put his head down here. There we are. And I think we'll do another Notturno one, a light one, over here. And I like the effect of the Notturno on itself like that. It's really amazing when you see the change in the colour. You can see the particles separating out. You've got the blue and the pink and so on and so forth. So let's do a nice, let's get the angle right. So it wants to go this way. A nice green one. And then I'm going to put the Notturno in. Okay, and then perhaps one more down here, perhaps a pale potter's pink. There we are. Okay, so there's our dragonflies. And it's great fun dropping these colours into each other and themselves. Very enjoyable. And I think you'll like having a go at that. And then I'm going to use some of the Harbour Blue to put in some leaves. Now I'm going to sharpen these up with a pen, because we will be doing some pen work on here. So I'm just very roughly indicating colour really, which is kind of leaf shaped. Just single drops, single strokes rather. Try to remember not to touch the rather wet dragonflies. So remembering this is, what do you call it? This is Bockingford, this paper. Now, if you feel that your colour is too strong, and this is another tip, just take your brush and using moderate pressure, first of all dry it a bit on one of these, just dry your brush a bit like that. It makes it what we used to call thirsty. And that means it will pick up moisture from the paper as well as pigment. And that way, without spoiling what you've done, you can lighten it up a little bit if you feel that one of the wings, or even all of them, are a little bit too dark. So I think that's probably corrected that. I think that was a little bit too dark. So now what we have to do is wait for it to dry, and I'm not going to accelerate the drying process by using a hairdryer or anything. I'm just going to let it dry, and then once it is completely dry, we'll come back with the pen, which will be a Staedtler pigment liner, and it will probably be a number 0.8 millimeter nib, or something like that, not too fine. And then I'm going to use my rigger, a fine rigger. This is a excuse me, it's a number 2 Daler or Dalon brush, and I'm going to use it with some silver paint, and any kind of iridescent paint would do. I've got a bottle somewhere of iridescent medium, which is quite nice. And anyway, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in a minute when this has dried. Okay, so that's now completely dry, and seems to have acquired a little bit of, I don't know, I think I just brushed with my hand there to see whether it was dry, and I think I've just transferred a little bit of paint, but doesn't really matter, that's fine. So near enough dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some ink work now, and I've decided on a 0.5 rather than a 0.8, and I'm just going to practice some nice loose wing outlines on my piece of paper here so that I don't make a mistake when I start, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera a bit closer, but perhaps not quite that close because it focuses on my hand too much then. And then I'm just going to go round the eye area and then do, do some nice wings like that. Just one stroke would be good. And then I'm just going to wiggle with the pen down the body. Let's bring this up a little bit just in case it's doing a silly thing. And we'll do another one. So we do need the pen to be working. So the eyes just go round them, and then each wing coming back to the middle like that. And the idea is just to give an indication of movement, really. Yeah. And this one here. Because like most insects, we've just been having lunch, and the bees and the wasps are all flying around, and they don't stay still long enough for you to identify exactly what they are. So is that a hornet? I don't know, it won't keep still. And then I thought that the nice thing to do for the body would be to just do a wiggly line like that, rather than joining up all these things with anything solid. So I'm just doing wiggly lines down like that. Okay, so now the little leaves, and do the stem, and then we're just going to do some nice leaf shapes using the pen and putting in a centre vein in each leaf like that. And most definitely not keeping to the colour, but sort of going along beside it. Keeping it nice and loose. I'm not really varying the size too much because I think it's got enough variation, this painting, without that being varied as well. So we've got this one. There we are, is that all of them? Okay, and then the final thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to go to my silver, what's it called, white gold. And then I'm just going to add a few nice silvery lines on the wings of the dragonflies. You can add a little bit of colour into the silver if you like, which will give it a little bit more, actually it makes it a little bit more noticeable. Don't want too much of this, but a little bit's nice. And then we could put a little, whoops, that's a bit too much. A little bit on the eyes, maybe a squiggle on the body. It's up to you, do whatever you feel suits you. If I missed any out, this one. So there we are, and I think it's possible that it might be nicest if it was that way round, or maybe that way round. Yes, that's probably the best way, rather than the way I painted it, which is like that, but either way would work. So there we are, one dragonfly with embellishments. More could be done. I mean, you could put a few spatters on, and maybe you might want to drop some silver into the body if you felt it would benefit from it, like that, for example, but we don't want to get too carried away with that. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy that, please give us a like and subscribe, and pop on over to dianeantone.com to download your free sketch of this design. And also don't forget to go to our shop front. Check out the description below for lots more information about this and that and the other. So I'll see you again soon. It's a lovely sunny afternoon here, so we've got work to do in the garden, and I will see you next time. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye bye.